Westbrook on LeBron. LeBron ate it up at the rim. Wow, he got some bounce in those 35-year-old legs.
Whose game is it? It's Michael Jordan's game.
Cabot, 6 to play. Booker, this is for the win. Got it!
Bases. So Kobe will dunk, and then so will the other two. Then they'll do it one more time.
Oh, between the legs! Got to get it in. Here's Luka. Gets it away. It's good! A dunk it!
And the brilliance of the young man from Athens. This is the end of an unbelievable era.
Well, first, thanks very much.
Ben Golliver with the Open Floor Podcast.
Hi, I'm Kristen Ludlow with NBA Inside Stuff.
I'm OG Anunoby of the Toronto Raptors.
Hey, I'm Elena Delanon, and welcome to the Double Clutch
Podcast.
One of your regular hosts, and I'm going to start off with some generic naming admin about this episode. So initially, I thought this was going to be episode 400, and it seems in discussing with some other people, we actually got a bit off track with numbers in that some of our BBL and WBBL podcasts and WNBA podcasts did not follow our normal naming or numbering convention. So we actually had more than that, and then in terms of NBA ones, so what number it is became a bit questionable. So we've gone with 399.5 for this episode, and our next episode, without any contention from anyone, will be episode 400, finally. Quite an achievement to get to 400 episodes, well, as I've just alluded to, 400 plus, really, with all the bonus ones. But let's dive straight into Around the Association. Let's catch up with what's been happening in the NBA. So the Phoenix Suns remain the hottest team in the NBA, with at the time of recording having now won 13 straight games. They play the Cavs and the Knicks, where, to be honest, they'll probably expect to win those two games, before meeting the Eastern Conference topping Brooklyn Nets on Saturday in a potential finals preview. League pass alert indeed. As just mentioned, after a stuttering start by their recent standards, the Nets have ascended the Eastern Conference, one game ahead of the Bulls and the Heat. And looking at the respective ages of the best teams this year, the NBA is no country for young men. A trademark infringement incoming on that one. The reigning champs, the Bucks, were breaking records too this week. On Monday night, they had a franchise record 41-point lead over the Magic at the half. The Magic only seem capable of beating the Knicks this year. I've written sigh, so you can imagine me sighing. There's a lot of players missing with injuries that have occurred over the last few weeks, and a few who are close to returning. So here's a brief recap if you haven't been following closely. After a bright start to the season, half of everyone's best-named duo, Sexland, Colin Sexton, is out for the season. Of course, he is on my fantasy team. Michael Porter Jr. was tipped for great things this season with Jamal Murray out, but he was inconsistent to start the year and is now out until at least Christmas. Yup. On my fantasy team. John Wall looks no closer to being back on an NBA court, with Houston content to sit him despite their current record being 1-16. Want to guess whose fantasy team he's on? In better news, and in terms of difference makers nearing a return, Klay Thompson is expected to be back on the floor within the next month, and James Wiseman will be bolstering the Warriors' front court maybe as early as next week. Victor Oladipo is likely back within the next fortnight, which is an interesting one to follow. He signed a one-year, just $2.4 million contract with Miami, so he'll be desperate to prove himself. But with minutes hard to come by on a veteran team already playing to a winning formula, it's one to look at. Zion Williamson's been cleared for I've written contract. I meant contact drills, which is a positive sign, with Joel Embiid likely returning in the coming days after missing 8 games at the time of recording. And of that, I'm sure Andre Drummond is delighted. So, on to our guest for today. This guy needs no introduction in the UK basketball circles. He's my jersey supplier. He's your jersey supplier. It is the Sultan of Silk, disappointingly not wearing silk tonight. But welcome to Elliot, aka Hoopin' and Luton. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Pleasure to be here. Yeah, no silk. That's for Saturday Lives only.
Okay, so starting with our section called What is Your Name and Where Do You Come From? I harness my inner Cilla Black to find out a little bit about you. So talk to me about how you became a basketball fan in the first place.
Basketball started for me young when I was at school. Had a passing interest in it, nothing majorly. Then really got back into it when I lived out in Spain, so around 2016, 2017, where there are you kind of live in old people villages where there's no one under the age of 50, but every village has a basketball court, and they love their basketball on Spanish TV there. The commentary was all in Spanish, so I had no clue what they were saying, but it's kind of the only option to go on, so I started really getting back into it from there and realised, yeah, I actually love this.
So here's a very specific question, which won't be interesting to anyone who doesn't know the area. But for anyone listening, Elliot and I are originally from quite similar areas, quite nearby. So have you ever played at the basketball court by Manor Park in Aldershot?
By Manor Park?
Yeah, just at the top of it.
No.
Sad times.
But I have played, and I found out that where I used to work on Farnborough Airport, every single day I used to walk past a basketball court that I didn't know was there, but where GB team train at. So every single day I used to walk past it and had absolutely no idea it was there. It's a little fun story.
So you are unapologetically a Brooklyn Nets fan. What was it about that franchise in particular that drew you in?
Simple, really. It's the culture. Big Jay-Z fan, and if anything, before getting into basketball, I've always been into the culture and jerseys of basketball. So it was the plain black and white jerseys is just what drew me in. It's just a cool vibe.
Is that why you, in getting in the BBL, also were drawn to the Eagles, at least at first? You could keep that same colour scheme going.
The Eagles was voted for me by Twitter.
Okay.
I put a poll up when I was moving to Manchester saying, I think it was 4 teams involved. The final got to the Manchester Giants and the Newcastle Eagles. And the Eagles fan accounts got hold of the poll and shared it around quite vividly.
You must have felt quite trolled living very close to Manchester, but Twitter voting for Newcastle.
Like I said, I didn't quite realise how big the North was. I've never sort of looked this side of the wall, being from down south football, and I thought it was quite a small place than Scotland, but that's a good 3 hours away from me.
So, as you were getting into the Nets, then you mentioned Jay-Z already. Was it that kind of era when they had the former Celtics in like Pierce and Garnett and those guys? Is that the sort of teams you were watching first?
It was more towards the Nets. As I got back into basketball, I didn't have a team, so it was more when Jay-Z had to leave because of Rockefeller. But it was still just the hype around it. That's why I remembered. It was more the last season of D'Lo. Where it just seemed quite a cool vibe, and obviously we had the B jerseys, the black with the multicolored seams. So it was just from there, but it was the link with Jay-Z. He's still always linked with them, which gets me.
So who's your all-time favourite Net? Is it someone from those like early teams you're watching, or is it like someone earlier that you've gone back and watched, or is it someone current?
Someone current, but a bit controversial at the moment. But I think my favourite Net is Kyrie.
I thought you were going for Blake then.
No, Blake is my favourite human ever. But Kyrie would be my favourite Nets basketball player.
So why Kyrie? Just because of like how insane the talent level is and how good he is to watch. And
yeah, just things which make you gasp, and sort of think that people shouldn't be able to do. And I've kind of got a thing for people which upset other fan bases, so that's just added in there.
It's funny with Kyrie as well, because all of the nonsense that you can't avoid, whichever way you look around Kyrie, that's happened for the last couple of years, it kind of is a shame in that it masks just like what an incredible talent he is. In terms of, since I've been watching basketball, I don't think I've ever seen a point guard who can finish around the rim in as many ways and as creatively as he can, on top of being an unbelievable shooter, on top of being arguably the best ball handler of all time. It's just like an unguardable combination of skills to have together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's for another time. It's a different argument, but a lot of people are aware of my points that he gets a bad ride from the press. But in terms of basketball, what he can do, in terms of things like layups and things like that, it's just the athleticism and the way he can manipulate his body is just an incredible sight to see, and it's just something which you don't see elsewhere.
So we talked about how you got into the game and like why you chose to support the Nets and stuff. But a lot of people may only know you from your business, Hoopin' and Luton jersey store. So where did the idea for that come from? And like, how long has the store been running now?
Well, the store officially opened in March of 2020. So over a year and a half now, so it was a year and 9 months. It originally came about because, like I say, I've always been a fan of the culture. And I was trying to get some jerseys for myself, and I just found it impossible. I mean, and there's a little entrepreneur in me, which has always been, and I thought, hang on, there's quite a big gap in the market here. And as I was knowing that I was going to be moving back to the UK soon, I thought, well, maybe we can try something as a little bit of a side hustle. Whilst I integrate back, it takes a bit of the pressure off of finding a full-time job. And it just kind of exploded from there. I didn't expect to put as much time and effort in as I did, but if anything, it was more the community which I found there, which kind of gave me a sense of belonging of coming back in, which then gave me the encouragement. There's an opportunity here. There's a chance for you. People responded well to what I was doing. I've done little things like in the past, but nothing ever on a serious basis. It just kind of exploded from there. I was very fortunate to find a gap, but then very fortunate in finding something that I can put my all into, and hopefully that reflects in what I do.
And if it's not revealing any trade secrets, you mentioned that you kind of noticed a gap in the market. What was that gap? What was it that you thought, I could do something better than already exists here, or different, or?
Because it was so hard to find it. It was just fake jerseys. That if you wanted, so you couldn't go to any shops that do it. Foot Locker did it a little bit, but that got completely scrapped. So it was, all you can see is fake stuff. It's quite a niche market, but not. It's something which is coming more and more back into fashion. And because I found it so hard to find something for myself, but could see that there were these things available for quite cheap. But if you wanted to buy it new, it was very expensive. So just thought, why not give it a go? Let's see what happens from there. And
how aware were you at the time of other people in the space and other people who've been in this space? Because we used to record with Sammy Gunnell at Double Clutch a lot of it, who doesn't do so much of the jersey stuff anymore, but used to run a store in Camden Market and stuff. Did you already know those people? I know you're close with, I forget the guy's name who runs a throwback store as well.
I wasn't close. I went into it completely blind. I didn't know any people. I wasn't involved in any of the socials or anything like that. But I actually reached out to Mark beforehand. It wasn't right, I'm going to run this, let's start from now. I actually spent about 6 months learning how to spot a fake, building up a collection from there before launching a website. You know, we get a lot of people come to me in the same way straight away saying, I want to run a website. Where'd you get your jerseys from? It's kind of like, well, you need to build up what you're doing. You need to get involved with the community, have a brand, have a personality. And this was all help I got from elsewhere. Luckily, I'm not ashamed to reach out to people and ask questions. And I was fortunate that I found people that were willing to help, because there is such a gap in the market that it's quite often misconstrued that me and Mark should be sort of worst enemies competing over the same space. But, you know, there's enough of a market that we can both operate well, and we feed off each other. We always give each other advice, which is a great thing to do. It's quite rare too.
So, as well as jerseys, not in the commercial sense, but in your personal life, you're also a big sneakerhead. So, what's some of your favourite kicks that you own? I can see some Nets Blazers behind you.
Yes, they were quite good from America. I like quite strange and out there. I'm not a big hype person. I avoided Jordans for a long time because of my little sparrow legs, that Jordan would just make them look even worse and look like a little Oompa Loompa. But my favourites, I've got a lot of 350s, Yeezys, but my favourite collaboration is quite recent, which is Nike and Sakai. I'll probably pronounce that wrong, but that's how I pronounce it. But I'm up to 9 of those now, and I just really enjoy them. They're a little bit out there, a little bit different. So they're some of my favourites.
And what is your sneaker grail, if you have one, that you don't already own, that you kind of always wanted to, or you've seen recently that you just thought, I'd love to have those, and you don't currently have them?
It's got to be the Red Octobers, isn't it? Yeezy Red Octobers would always be the... Well, no, I'm a big Yeezy stan, and just kind of, I like the rivalry, shall we say, between Nike and Adidas, the hopping. So, yeah, just them. But
that was a big thing recently, wasn't it, with Kanye's thing about Yeezy jumping over Jumpman? Was that it?
Yeah. Yeezy just jumps over Jumpman. Yeah. So, but yeah, they'd be the ones. Like I'd say, there's a lot of saving, a lot of jerseys to sell to get there, but that's the grail.
And in other sneaker news, Brian Windhorse, normally who's like a mainstream sports reporter, last week reported that Kobe's are becoming increasingly rare, despite being one of the most popular signature lines, because basically the deal expired with Nike and the Bryant estate. So they're not manufacturing new ones. So there's actually like a limited supply of Kobe's that NBA players are kind of running their way through currently. So have you got any Kobe's? Are you going to be stashing them, or?
I've got one pair. I've got a pair of the Kobe Undefeateds, which are the gold ones, the gold and purple, which are completely untouched. They won't go anywhere. I'm not ashamed to say that a lot of my trainers don't get worn. They're for me to look at and to look pretty. They're not to be resold, but I'm a little bit of a hoarder. I think it's my little bit of Sheldon Cooper comes out, that things can't be touched, they can't be opened, they've got to stay mint in package.
I am similar. I didn't used to be. When I lived in suburbia, I was always wearing my shoes. Now I've moved to the countryside, where for 8 months of the year, there's just mud everywhere. I only wear about 2 pairs of my shoes, despite having loads. So completely feel you there. On the topic of basketball fashion, did you see Kyle Kuzma's giant pink jumper, and what did you think of it?
I restrained myself from commenting to people. Wear what you want. If you like it, wear what you want. Doesn't matter what anyone else says. You know, big up to him if he wanted to wear it. And the thing I liked was the way he took everyone's comments. He joked back and laughed about it, enjoyed it. I'm a big fan of Kuz. I think he was a very easy target for when not playing basketball well, was to comment on other things, which I always find particularly a bit strange. But big up to him if he wants to wear that. I wouldn't wear it personally because my arms are short enough as it is that's what most jumpers look like. But like I say, wear what you want. If you like it, do it.
If you haven't seen this already, I strongly recommend you check it out, because I'm looking at it now and it looks like a cross between a kid wearing his dad's jumper, or he's just like been smacked with a giant slice of ham across his chest. It's like somewhere in between those two is what his jumper looks like. Big fan.
It did make me laugh though that some of the older players were coming out like Boogie and LeBron put something up, but when all you'd need to do is just put up pictures for them at draft night where they've stolen their dad's suit, and it kind of like ends anything that they could ever say about fashion to them.
Good shout in the Twitch chat. Richard Fang trying to join in with the shoe chat, saying he's not knowledgeable about shoes, but just writes Timberlands ? If this was 1997, I think they would be pretty cool. Not so much now.
I had to put in the group chat a few weeks ago, a different group chat. Am I allowed to buy Timberlands? And I actually bought a pair of Timberlands a couple of weeks ago.
Good for you. And that's actually a thing I really believe in is buying what you like, not what the brands tell you to like.
Absolutely.
Or other people or anyone. Buy what you want. Enjoy what you want. So on the topic of, we've talked about jerseys, we've talked about shoes, and let's get down to what people want to hear about, which is you have a big drop on Friday, which if you're watching live is in just a fraction over 24 hours time, a bit more. If you're listening after the fact, it may be on now, so get on the website. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so Friday morning for Black Friday, there is 25% off every single item on site. People will know recently I launched a bargain 4-5 bucket where everything is £45. There's even 25% off the bargain bucket. So ridiculous savings on jerseys, which are already cheap for the people. That's why I aim to do. Nothing is ever over retail. Whenever I get savings, it's passed on to the people. So from 7 o'clock in the morning on Friday, and it ends at 11:59 on Sunday night. And then after that, it's a couple of really big months. So we've got the app dropping next month, and then the annual Christmas Day drop where I am aiming for a minimum of 200 jerseys being dropped.
Nice.
Behind me.
So on Friday with the sale, are any new jerseys dropping on that day, or can people already be going on the site and looking for what they might want to pick up?
No, it's currently everything on site. There's nothing new going on there at the moment because it's too much to handle for one person in one go. So anything you've got your eyes on, some have already been going this week. Some of the more rarer things because I didn't think people were scared that they'd miss out on them. So they're not even wanting to wait for the discount. But everything on site, save it, put it in your basket, favourite the page, but it will be 25% off. And you don't even have to do anything. The code's automated for you.
And just as a reminder, Elliot's talked about the 45 quid bucket already, and this is like the incentive to keep going back, checking the website, because it's not static. Stuff goes in there from day to day. So do keep going back there, checking for if that jersey you had your eye on has popped in there. You might get lucky.
Absolutely. I didn't even have to pay you to say that.
Elliot is a new sponsor of the show, by the way, guys. Okay, so let's talk about the Nets this season. We've talked about like your fandom in general. Let's get to this season in particular. What's your overall perspective on how the season has played out so far?
I mean, from a serious point of view, I said at the start of the season, for the first few months especially, we're going to have some horrendous losses. There's going to be some absolutely terrible quarters, terrible halves, terrible games, because we're having to work something out completely different again. The Kyrie factor, I'm not going to say whether it's right or wrong, but it's a massive thing. Not only from him being out of the team, is you then having to change completely how other players are playing. So for us to have had the best start to a season that the franchise has ever had, to be leading the East when we're supposed to be in crisis, is way above what we realistically thought. Obviously, for camera, we should have not lost the game and won every game by 50 points. But being realistic, we're above where we should be, to be honest. And with the added adversity, with all the circus which is created created externally, we're flying, to be honest.
You've mentioned the kind of hoopla around the team. I've never used that word before. I'm going to keep using that. The hoopla around the team. But one thing to Brooklyn's credit, I think, is for different reasons, Philadelphia has also had the same kind of media attention around the team. Yet Brooklyn has been so much more decisive and quick to act in what they've done and how they've responded to it, that I feel like it became a non-story quite quickly in Brooklyn, whereas in Philadelphia, it's just kind of rumbled on and on and on.
Yeah. And I think people like Sean Marks, and that deserves great credit for the statements which they put out, which eliminated it, but also coming from the players. I mean, there's been no panic or no fuss from the players. Every single person has said, it's Corey's decision, we respect it. And it's gone from there. And I also think it's a big plus point in who Steve Nash is, that he's very much a facilitator as a coach, and he's been at the top level as a player, so he understands the